Push down on the side stop. Set it up. Alright, check this out. I have this guy drawn on you, alright? Right? You're gonna aim at him already from the get-go, you're gonna aim at this guy, right? Okay. Out the gate, you're gonna aim at him.
Hello there. Today I'm going to be talking about the CZ75D Compact PCR. Really long name. But I'm going to be discussing this pistol, and this is my first pistol. So I'm going to be giving basically a basic overview or rundown on this pistol. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of background on the pistol, things I like, things I don't like, a range report, and general features of this pistol. And hopefully you'll learn something today. Some general features of the CZ75 PCR is they're going to include an aluminum frame. Now these ones, they will not include any sort of railing in the bottom of the frame, so you can't mount any sort of lights or lasers onto it. And it's basically scalped just like a CZ75B model or just a regular CZ75. They are going to feature a 15 round capacity plus one in the chamber, so carrying capacity about 16 rounds. They do have a push button mag release, and magazines will drop free just like that. They do have a decocker instead of a manual safety for the PCR models, and you can only actuate it with the hammer all the way back like this. These are double action, single action pistols, so in double action it's going to look like this. Let me see if I can zoom in for you guys. And single action like that. They also have a slide release right here, and whenever the gun's empty, it's gonna hold open like this, and to drop the slide, just press on the slide release, and just like that. These feature just about a 4-inch barrel, and it's gonna weigh in at about 2.2 pounds fully loaded, and 1.11 pounds unloaded. So a decently heavy gun, I guess, for carry, but it's definitely a good service pistol. But yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Oh, and the only caliber that the PCR model is going to come in is 9mm. I'm pretty sure I know that there's certain compact models you can find in 40 Smith & Wesson, but for the PCR model specifically, they're only found in 9mm, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, they also have rubberized textured grips that I'll go in detail later. But yeah, that's basically everything you need to know. I'll get more in detail later on in the video. Now this is a PCR model, PCR standing for Police Czech Republic, as this was a carry piece for a lot of police officers in the Czech Republic. And this is also the same length as a compact model. The way you can tell the difference between a compact model and a PCR, since the PCR is not labeled exclusively PCR, is these will have the aluminum frames, while the standard compact models will have the steel frames. And the compact models, you can choose between decocker or the manual safety, while the PCR will only have the decocker. And I think the reason they went for an aluminum frame was it is going to be a lot lighter for them to carry, and a lot of officers, they're going to be carrying their guns all day, every day. So it was a little bit more pleasant to carry around on their day-to-day business. Now the CZ75's claim to fame is the slide into frame design. You see, most modern handguns will have the slide riding over the frame. Case in point, this Bulgarian Makarov. You'll see the slide rides over the frame, and this was just the norm. But the Czechs decided they wanted to have the slide into the frame, and you get the CZ75. Now, they did it for a multitude of reasons. A couple being, number one, it gives you a lot of real estate on the frame, so you can really purchase your hands up there and get a really nice grip onto the gun. And number two, it actually lowers the barrel down a bit further, so you'll have a more pleasant recoil impulse. Now, of course, in this configuration, you do have its pros and its cons. Its pros being it's going to have a milder recoil impulse than other firearms, and you do have more slide real estate. But the cons would be you do have a thinner slide. You see, it doesn't have much real estate on the slide to pick up on. So having more of that traditional clamshell grip to do any slide manipulation, it's going to be a little bit harder. And so with the CZ75, I do recommend more of a pinch grip like this. They have like really deep serrations in the rear of the slide, so you can really pinch onto here, and it's a lot easier to manipulate it. See, with the Makarov, you know, it's a lot easier to just, you know, like that. So yeah, the slide into frame has its pros and cons, but I think overall the pros outweigh the cons, and it makes it a very pleasant shooter out the range. Some personal background with this pistol. So if you didn't know, this is actually my very first firearm. And so basically a year ago, I decided I wanted to get into firearms, or at least I wanted to get my first firearm. So I did a lot of research and looked at what I liked and what I disliked. So I looked at Glocks and I didn't like how they didn't have a manual safety. I did try the SIGs. I tried the SIG P320 and P365. The P365 was a little snappy for my hand, but I did like the size. And the P320 was a little, I don't know how to describe it, but it didn't really excite me, I guess. So I wanted something that looked nice, but was still functional. And at that time, I was watching an anime called Cowboy Bebop, and the main character was named Spike, and he wielded the Jericho 941. And I really liked the design of the gun. It was very retro, and it didn't have any rails, and I really liked the sleek lines of that gun. So I decided I wanted to make it my mission that this gun was going to be my first gun. So I did a lot of research on the local gun stores around me, and I saw one gun shop had the 941 in stock. And so I learned a valuable lesson about online gun sales. You see, just because the website says they have it in stock doesn't mean they have it in stock in store. So I went into the store asking about this pistol, and they didn't have it. They explained to me they have it in their warehouse and they would have to ship it to that store in order for me to purchase it. And I didn't really want to go through all that hassle, so I didn't get the 941. But on that day, I was determined to get my first gun. So I told myself I wasn't going to leave here until I get a gun. So I stayed and I looked at the guns in their different booths. So I looked at the Glocks. Of course, I didn't like them. I looked at the HKs. They were a little pricey for me. Of course, the SIGs, I didn't really like them. And then I got to the CZ booth. Now, if you didn't know anything about the 941, it was basically based on the CZ75, so just keep that in mind. And I already knew this fact, so I decided I was gonna look into the CZ lines. And they had a couple. I think they had like 4 or 5 that I was looking at. So first I looked at the CZ75B model, or basically the standard model. And it was nice. It was a little heavy, and the barrel was a little long, and the slide release was a little too far for my hands. I had to kind of like break my grip in order to actuate it. So I didn't go for that one, although it was the cheapest option of the steel models. I looked at the P7 and P10, but I didn't like the polymer furniture or frames. And yeah, I didn't really want to go for them. It didn't feel right in my hands. Of course, they are very good guns. It's just I don't like polymer guns. That's just a personal preference. And then I looked at the CZ75 compact model. So it had kind of everything I liked. It had the steel body, or the metal body, and all the controls were right where I needed them to be. So I could actuate the safety from right here, and I could actuate the slide release. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't looking at the PCR model or the compact D model. I was looking at the B model, so it has the manual safety. Just remember that. And so it was a little pricier than the standard B model, but I decided, like, with the size and like all the features, I think this is the one I wanted to go for. So, you know, I said I wanted this one. I filled out the paperwork, showed them my ID, and I got the gun. And it was really nerve-wracking. You know, of course, this was my first gun, and it was kind of exhilarating. And I come home and I was a little surprised because I didn't get the compact model with the steel frame. I got the compact D PCR model. For some reason, they didn't give me the right box, I guess. And so I didn't get the manual safety, but I got the decocker. And I was a little confused and a little concerned, but you know, the store doesn't have a return policy, so I didn't want to return, so I was like, I got it, so I'm just gonna keep it. But I think, in my opinion, I won out on this. I think between the standard safety model and the decocker, I think I appreciate the decocker a lot more than the standard safety. So yeah, ever since, I just been living with this gun. I carry it, I keep it in my house and everything. So yeah, just a little history on the PCR and me. As far as reliability goes, this gun has basically been flawless for me ever since I got it out of the box. Now, normally with a lot of firearms, you're going to need at least 200 rounds to break in the gun before you can trust it reliably. But with my CZ75, I didn't actually have a break-in period. I shot my first 50 rounds, flawless. The next 200 rounds, flawless, and it kept chugging on all the way through. And the only times I've ever had any sort of malfunctions with this gun was usually ammunition related. My first malfunction was with aluminum ammunition, and I'm not going to ding this gun over that. And another time I did have sort of malfunctions was with reloaded ammunitions, and you know, I'm not gonna ding the gun over like ammunition issues, but so far, if you run like standard like ammunition, it's gonna be very flawless for you, as it is for me. Maybe I got lucky with mine, but you know, I think these are very good guns out of the box. Now, when it comes to grip, the CZ75 is a very grippy gun. You're going to see it has forward and rear serrations on the slide, and it's going to be on both sides. You're going to get serrations on the front of the trigger guard right here, serrations on the actual grip panels, and these are a rubberized grips, and they are fairly thin, but of course the grips are going to be a little bit chunky, but it's very comfortable. You're going to get serrations on the magazine release, serrations on the slide release and the decocker and the hammer. Also, you're going to get serrations on the rear and the front of your grips. So yeah, it's a very grippy gun, and you know, on the side it is going to be a bit aggressive because it is working with a very thin slide. So they wanted to make sure that you'd be able to effectively actuate the slide without having to slip off. So I think that was a very good mark on CZ, and yeah, very good. So as far as safety goes, this gun does not have a traditional manual safety, rather it has a decocker right here. And the only way you can actuate it is when the hammer's all the way cocked back. See, whenever the hammer's all the way forward, you cannot actuate it, and the way you actuate it is you'll pull down. But the hammer all the way forward, you're not able to do anything with it. If you're in half cock, it'll move some, but it will not actuate that hammer. You have to be all the way back in order for that decocker to actuate, and I'll show you. So it's gonna have a little play right here, and then it'll click, and you let go, and it decocks the pistol. And you'll see it moves that trigger. So when the hammer's all the way back and you decock it, watch that trigger, just like that. And it's gonna put it in this half cock position, making it safer for you to carry. See, you wouldn't carry with the hammer all the way forward. You really wouldn't want to do that. And you wouldn't want to carry with the hammer all the way back because it makes that trigger very easy to pull. So you'd carry half cocked because it is a safer method and it takes a deliberate pull of the trigger in order for that gun to go off. So this is a very safe position to carry your gun, and this is how I would carry this gun. Now, when it comes to the magazine release, it's going to be a push button style magazine release, and you'll see it's fairly raised up right here, and it's very intuitive. You can get to it very easily right there. And these are drop-free magazines, still drop-free anytime you push that button. It's no problem at all. And what's great is on the grips, on the bottom of the grip well or the mag well, it's going to be beveled out or flared out. So it makes those magazine reloads so much faster, and it's very intuitive. And you know, with the way the magazines are designed, it's going to naturally just like feed into that magazine well. So it's very nice. And notice the shape of the magazine release, and you'll notice on the other side, it won't have a magazine release, but I have a feeling you're able to like flip it around or find some sort of kit to put the magazine release on the right side of the gun. But you know, in its standard configuration, it's going to be on the left side, and that's just what's most natural to me. If you're a left-hander, maybe there's a kit to put it on this side, but either way, it is a very good, very intuitive design. Out of the box, I was given these two 15-round Metgar magazines. These are a steel magazines, and as you can tell, these are very well used because I never bothered to get any other magazines for my gun, so I just had the two, and they do have quite a bit of wear on it, but yeah, still a very nice magazine. It comes with this polymer follower, a polymer base plate, and a steel body. And you're gonna know on the side of the magazines, it's gonna have the side that says 40.40 for 40 Smith & Wesson and 9mm. So it's gonna indicate how many rounds for each caliber. Now, the PCR never came in 40 Smith & Wesson, it only came in 9mm, but they share the magazines with the compact, and I believe they have a 40 Smith & Wesson model. So it's just going to share the same magazines, but you're going to see that it has these windows right here indicating how many rounds of each caliber. So for 40 Smith & Wesson, once you see the rounds here, it's going to be 5 rounds, 8 rounds, and 11 rounds. That's the maximum capacity. And on the other side, when we flip it around, you're going to see 5, 10, and 15 for 9mm. And let me show you what it looks like when it's fully loaded. So not fully loaded, but whenever it hits these windows. So let me just load it up real quick. And it loads up just like any other magazine, any other pistol magazine. So you'll see it's going to show that little bit of brass right there, and that's what the windows are going to be good for. These are a double stack design, and it's going to feed one single round at the top, and it's going to feed just like that. So yeah, a very reliable magazine. I haven't noted any issues with these magazines, and it's very good, and you're going to notice the CZ sort of logo in the front of it. Yeah, very nice. Now, when it comes to the trigger of this pistol, it has three basic trigger pull weights. So with the hammer all the way down, it's going to have about a 15-pound trigger, and it's going to be fairly heavy. You'll see that. Just like that. Heavy but smooth. And what's interesting is if you stop halfway, it will go into decocked. Let me see if I show you. Right there. And it will just stay in decocked mode. Now, moving on to the decocked mode, or rather like this, it's going to have more or less an 11 or 12 pound trigger, and you'll see it's fairly smooth all the way through. Again, just like that. And lastly, we're going to have all the way back to single action, and the trigger pull is going to be about 4 pounds or 4.5 pounds, and you'll see not much to it. Now, because this is a decocker, it is going to have an effect on the trigger pull. There's going to be a little bit of play with the single action, as you'll see. So let me see if I can actually show you that. So there's a lot of like nothing right here. I come to this wall a little bit. There you go. Let me see if I can show you again. Yeah, so maybe not the best trigger in the world, but it's totally serviceable for just carrying it around, and it's not really going to affect too much, but just keep that in mind. I would have to say that the CZ75 has to be one of the most ergonomic guns to hold. And you'll notice that with the grip. You'll notice there's going to be a defined hump right here. And it naturally guides your hand into this beaver tail that protects your hand from any sort of hammer bite or any sort of slide bite. And with the way the grips are conformed, your hands are naturally going to kind of ride over these polymer or these like rubber grips. And it gives you a very good purchase on the pistol, and it makes it one very comfortable gun to hold. So yeah, there's a lot of points to be made about the grip of the gun, but in my opinion, I think the CZ75 is one of the most ergonomic guns to hold. Now, when it comes to the finish of the CZ75 PCR, it's going to feature a black polycoat, or almost a baked-on polymer, and it's a very strong, very robust finish that will not really like wear out. I haven't noted any wearing or any fading of the finish. There's no real like holster wear that I can note. The only one is like on the retaining pin right here, only because I strike it so many times. And on the bottom, a little bit of wear on the magwell, but I think it's only because like I just ding it so much. But when it comes to outside the exterior, it's pretty pristine. There's no real wear. With the older CZ75s, they did use sort of this baked-on enamel, and I heard those had a tendency of chipping off and kind of breaking after a while, but with this black poly coat, it is very resistant to wear. What I find really funny is that, you know, throughout the decades and all the iterations of the CZ75, CZ still decides to keep the lanyard loop, and I think it's one of the more useless features on this gun and a lot of other guns that have lanyard loops. I really don't think there's a time and place for lanyard loops anymore. And even if there was, this is such a small loop. I don't know what kind of lanyard you're going to be running with these, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to affect anything unless you have one of those flat bottom magazines. It might hit you, but since these magazine base plates are a bit flared, it doesn't really affect me much. But I don't know, I just think it's one of the more useless features of the CZ75, but that's just me. Maybe you run a lanyard, maybe you don't. What I really like about the CZ75 triggers is they have a very audible reset. So make sure nothing's in the gun and reset. And let me come close for you guys. Yeah, you can hear that little like snap of it. You'll see. Yeah, very nice. Now, when it comes to the sight itself, it's going to feature the front and rear serrations, as I mentioned earlier. On the left side, it's going to mention CZ75D compact caliber 9mm. Let me focus for you. 9mm. And what's interesting about this gun is it makes no mention that this is a PCR model. So if you had no knowledge of the different types of CZs, you'd probably mistaken it to be just a regular compact model, since there's no markings indicating that it is a PCR model. And they are going to feature these low profile sights, or these kind of anti-snagging sights. So these would be very good for concealed carrying, as it wouldn't snag as much as normal sights. The rear sight is dovetailed in, as well as, well, not dovetailed in the front, but it's going to be kind of pinned in place. And the rear sight is going to be adjustable. They are going to feature these dots right here, and these are night sights. They're not tritium lit, but if you were to shine a light on them, it would charge up the lights right here, and you would be able to see it in the dark. On the top, we're going to have these sort of serrations right here, and these are a glare hider or a glare deflector. And you'll see this sort of bead right here. This is a loaded round indicator or a loaded chamber indicator. And when there's nothing in the gun, it's going to sit completely flat. You won't see it and you won't necessarily feel it. However, if you have a round in the chamber, it's going to pop up, and I'll show you that. So this is a dummy round. This is not a real round. So everybody, we are being safe. So insert it into the gun, finger off the trigger, rock in, and you'll notice it's going to pop up just like that. And you are going to physically feel that there is a round in the chamber, and you're going to see it right there. Now, whenever we open up the chamber, you're going to notice there's a round right there. And whenever we take that round out, let's see, map out, it's going to totally disappear, or it's going to flatten out like that. So you'll know whether you have a round or not in the chamber. And on the other side of the pistol, you're going to see it features an external ejector right here. It's going to have the same serrations, serial number on the barrel, and the year of manufacturing right here. But other than that, that's pretty much everything you need to know about the slide. These do have a tilting barrel, and it's not going to be tilting as much as a Glock, but the barrel does tilt, and you can see it right here, like ever so slightly. But whenever the gun's all the way back, it's not going to like angle up just like a Glock. It's going to stay fairly flat as well, but it does tilt. Now, to take apart the pistol, it's going to be very easy. All you have to do is first check that the gun is clear. There's nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber, and so we are clear. First step to do is decock the pistol, and you're going to notice these kind of marks right here, these sort of notches. What you're going to do is kind of loop your thumb into the trigger guard, and with your hand, you're going to push that side back. And these notches are going to meet. I'm going to zoom in a bit for you guys. But yeah, these notches should meet, and that's where you want to be. Now, when we come to the other side, you're going to see this pin right here. You're going to want to take some sort of object to bang on it, and it's going to release your retaining pin. So the manual says use the back of your magazines. I tend not to use it. I tend to use sort of like a mallet, but in this demonstration, I will. So you're going to tap it, and it's going to like cave in like that. And you're going to see on the other side, it came out right here. So all you have to do is pinch the side like this and pull that retaining pin out like that. So that's step one. Afterwards, all you can do is just pull the side out. So this is done. And with the side itself, you can take the recoil spring out. Let's do this where we don't go flying out like that. So you get your recoil spring right here and your guide rod. This is just a plastic guide rod right there. And the barrel will slide from the back just like that. And that's basically the entire gun like disassembled. So you can clean it at this stage or do whatever you need to do. And what I find really interesting is on the frame, they don't actually coat the inside of the frames. They leave it unpainted or uncoated. And this is just like the bare aluminum, and you can see that. I think that's a very interesting thing that CZ does, but regardless, let's put it back together. And you'll notice that this is actually a very light slide because it is pretty much made of all aluminum. But yeah, so to put the gun back together, all you have to do is just put the guide rod back into the spring. Next, with the barrel, you're going to feed it in right here. Feed it all the way in, and then it's going to lock in place basically. Then with your recoil spring, feed it into this groove right here, and it's going to index with the back of the barrel right here. So you'll see it right there. Let me see if I can get it from this angle. But yeah, just like that. And there's going to be a notch on the guide rod that will allow it to index with the barrel. And once that's seated, all you have to do is with the frame, just feed it into these grooves, just like that. And there you have it. All that's left is pinch the side like this, and with your retaining pin right here, and then it snaps into place. Then you can do a function check. Everything's functioning correctly. Do all that. And there you have it. The gun assembled and reassembled. Assembled, reassembled, disassembled, and reassembled. The beaver tail on the CZ75s are also a very nice feature to have. it prevents the hammer from like going back and get you any sort of hammer bite, and also protects your hand from any sort of like slide bite. So it is a very good one. Maybe if you're concealed carrying, it might dig into you a little bit, but I haven't actually noted that. But it is very nice, and it allows you to come up on the gun very nicely without having to worry about any of those like bitey bits. Now, when you first get the pistol, it's going to come in this very nice plastic box. And you're going to see right here, it has the logos on these latches right here, if it will just focus for me. And you're going to see big CZ and the logo right there. Now, let's open it up. And you'll see it comes with the pistol itself. Of course, I pretty much am reviewing that right now. Next, we have these two Metgar magazines. Some of them will have different magazines, but as for mine, I got the Metgar magazines. These are 15 rounders. Next, we have these two sort of cleaning rods. I've never actually used these before, so I just keep it in the box. But yeah, at least you get them. And one thing of note is I'm pretty sure they use the same box for a lot of their different CZ75 pistols, or maybe just other CZ pistols, just because the cutout for the gun itself is a lot bigger than the compact model, as you'll see. You see all that extra room right there, so I'm sure they're going to use it for their full-size models as well. This portion right here, I don't know what it's for. This it didn't come with anything as for my box, but you know, hopefully you guys can chime in on that. And from the top, we do have this little pouch right here. It's gonna come with the owner's manual right here. The owner's manual. Let's see. I believe this is some sort of a warranty card, if I'm not mistaken. Next, we have the lock, or the gun lock, that I've never used, and I just kept it in the bag. And I believe that is it. And yeah, that's pretty much the box and everything you'll get out of the box when you get the CZ75. Now, things I like about the pistol itself is, number one, it is a very ergonomic pistol to hold. Because of this rubberized grip and the way it's designed, it naturally brings your hand very high up onto the pistol. And paired with the fact that it has a very high frame due to the slide into frame design, it's gonna give you a very high purchase on the gun and allow you to grip the gun very high and make it a very comfortable hold for you. Now you can grip it like this with the finger over, or you can grip it like traditionally, but either way it is a very comfortable gun to hold. Another thing I like about shooting this gun is the recoil impulse. Again, because of the slide into frame design, it's going to have a lower bore axis, and meaning it'll have a more pleasant shooting experience. So it's probably the lowest recoiling 9mm I've ever shot thus far. And I don't know, it's just a very enjoyable shooter and allows me to come back to target a lot quicker than a lot of other platforms I've shot before. I do also like the weight. I know like in carrying the gun, that's not so good. But when you're actually shooting the gun, the weight actually does absorb a lot of the recoil in the gun itself. So it makes it a very soft shooting as well. And lastly, I do like the trigger. Now, yes, the decocker does affect the trigger pull a lot, but in my opinion, it's so like marginal in how much it's going to affect the trigger. I still think it is a very smooth trigger, and you'll see. Like, I still think it's very good. It's a very serviceable sort of duty trigger. So yeah, that's basically everything I like about the pistol. I mean, I could keep going on, and this video would be very long, but more or less, that's why I like the pistol. Now, things I dislike about the gun. It's not a very long list, in my opinion. I do really like this firearm, but I guess there's some gripes I do have about the gun. Number one is, I guess you could say, is the disassembly of the gun. I really don't like the fact that you need a tool or something to bang on this retaining pin in order to take it apart. I wish that it can all be done without having to take your magazine or some sort of tool to bang on this and it'll come off. I don't like that, but it's honestly such a non-issue. Another thing I don't like, and a lot of people complain about this as well, is the length or the girth of the slide, I guess, or how much slide real estate you get. Because of the slide into frame design, it's going to be quite thin when compared to other pistols. You're only going to get this much room, and you're not going to be able to get any sort of traditional like grip on the slide, kind of like that clamshell grip like this. It's going to be a little difficult for you. So you're more or less relegated to kind of like a pinch grip. So you can pinch it like this, or you can pinch it from the back like this. And you know, like if you're doing a lot of slide manipulation, that can be very annoying. Another thing I kind of ding it on is the weight, and I know it is an aluminum frame gun and it's supposed to be a lot lighter, but even for like concealed carrying, it's still quite a heavy gun when compared to a lot of like polymer frame guns, and kind of like the width of this gun. So without pointing the muzzle at me, hopefully I could show you guys, but it is kind of a little chunky gun. And whenever you're concealed carrying this, it does kind of show up a lot under my shirt. And yeah, it wasn't like the most, I guess, concealable gun that I've worn out there. But yeah, those are pretty much just like a bunch of non-issues in my opinion. There's nothing like totally like off-putting about this gun. It's just a bunch of like minor gripes about it. I still love this gun a lot, but it does have its things that maybe could have been better, or some things that, you know, I just don't like. But other than that, it's still a very good gun. And that concludes the CZ75D Compact PCR model review. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. It took me a couple days to make this, so if you notice my hair or my mustache kind of growing or going away, you'll know why, because I shoot these videos day by day. So that's why. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I influence your purchasing decisions into getting one of these guns. Like, if I can convince you to get a CZ75, I would have done my job correctly. I think the CZ75 is a great model of gun, and CZ itself is a very good company, and I highly recommend that brand. But anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and have a good day.
First shot, you're already on target, so slow in.